Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of everyone's favorite Lower Merion TV show, and one that is significantly better than the Public Works Pipeline. I'm Andy Gavrin, Lower Merion Commissioner. This month I'm honored to have as my guest Lower Merion's Director of Library Services, Lynn Williamson. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good.
Excellent.
Happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, thrilled to have you. So I have to start, I guess, as a head of our library service with the obvious question. What's your favorite book?
It took me some time to think how I was going to answer this question. I'm an English major, a double major actually in English and French, and so I went back to the classics to answer this. I love Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. It's a book that sits with you for a long time, and you really get to know the characters, and it's almost like a discipline. You read it for a while, and then when you're done, you miss the characters. So I would say that's my favorite book.
How many times have you read it?
Just the once.
Okay. I can never read books multiple times. I don't know. I mean, there's so much to read that it's like, what's next?
Yeah, I feel the same way. But I also wanted to give a plug, since it's National Poetry Month in April.
Okay.
I'm reading a great book of poetry by a modern American poet called Jane Hirshfield called Ledger.
Okay.
I strongly recommend that one. It's not light reading. It's kind of about finitude and serious things about the environment and things like that. But it's really good, especially for April for Poetry Month. I want to put that in there.
Yeah. So a little secret for our viewers out there. You may be shocked to learn this. This is not a live broadcast. We are actually recording this in April, even though you're seeing this in May, and even though April is Poetry Month, you can still read poetry in May, so you don't have to stop in only April.
All year long.
Yes. So that was a much better answer than mine, which is The Princess Bride. I keep it a little bit lighter than Anna Karenina and some heavy poetry, but the book, The Princess Bride, was, as much as the movie was amazing, the book was 1,000 times better.
And I know the movie, but I don't know the book.
And it was written by the same. The movie wasn't an adaptation of the book. It was written by the same author, the screenplay, as the book, and it is fun. It just goes deeper into the characters and into everything, and it's a wonderful book. But it's no Anna Karenina. So we learned you were an English major. Tell us a little bit more about you. What did you do before you came here, and where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm from Ohio, southwestern Ohio originally, a town called Middletown that's between Cincinnati and Dayton.
Okay.
I went to Butler University in Indianapolis for my undergraduate degree, and I have my master's in library science from University of Illinois.
Okay.
So the year that I finished my master's in library science, I went to the American Library Association conference in Chicago, and I was recruited there for the Free Library of Philadelphia. So I spent 27 years with the Free Library.
Wow.
I worked in a lot of different neighborhoods and a lot of different roles over the years. The last almost 7 years before I came over here, I was the chief of neighborhood libraries. So I was in charge of the 49 branches and 3 regional libraries of the Free Library system. So, yeah.
Wow. So you're a Midwesterner through and through.
I am.
And then you came to the East Coast. Were you looking to come to the East Coast, or did it just
I knew
happen?
I wanted to live in a big city, and it just kind of played out that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, and the Free Library of Philadelphia is this historic, wonderful system. I don't know if it's the oldest in the country, but it's certainly up there.
No, I think one of the libraries in Boston is a little bit older.
Okay.
A lot of people think that the Free Library of Philadelphia was the one founded by Benjamin Franklin, and actually that's not true. Benjamin Franklin founded the Library Company of Philadelphia, and that was a subscription library. So in order to borrow anything, you had to pay a subscription.
Okay.
The Free Library of Philadelphia was actually founded in 1891 as a free public library. That's why it has the word free in it, to make it distinctive from the subscription library.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So what are some of the great things in the Free Library? Or you obviously spend a lot of time there, and I know it is renowned for as this amazing system. What are some of the amazing things about the Free Library of Philadelphia?
Well, I mean, it has a branch in almost every neighborhood of the city. It's very committed to serving all the neighborhoods. They also have a fantastic rare book department, and they are often hosting exhibitions to show some of the materials that they have. But since I worked in the neighborhood libraries, I'm kind of most proud of the work that the library staff do in the neighborhoods. And I think probably the thing that I'm most proud of working on is my small role in renovating 4 of the branches with a $25 million grant from the Williamson Foundation.
Okay.
So we had 4 branches that were completely renovated, down to the studs. And then reopened a few years before the pandemic. So a lot of the branches are older and they need a lot of TLC, and it was really great to see beautiful buildings, brought back and open to the public.
And did you see after they were renovated, did you see different usage or more usage of the buildings?
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes a difference.
In the couple of years before the pandemic.
Okay.
Of course, it's been challenging times for all libraries and institutions since the pandemic. But it's important to emphasize the great resources that community has, and obviously that our community has. We have 6 beautiful newly renovated libraries in Lower Merion, so it's a resource that residents should be really proud of here.
No doubt. And so since you bring that up, I don't know if I can ask this question, but do you have, I'm asked if I have a favorite kid. I certainly do, even though I tell my kids I don't. Do you have a favorite library? Are you allowed to say?
I do not have a favorite library.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you tour around the various libraries and you spend your time? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I made a point of working the circulation desk at each of the branches when within the first couple of months that I started, and I still try to spend a little bit of time every week getting out, talking to staff, because it's really important for me to see and understand, how the communities use the libraries. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And we have a pretty big library staff.
Yeah.
How big is our staff?
I think it's about 90 full-time.
Wow.
No, 90 full-time equivalent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's a big difference. Yeah. Absolutely. So your role, you became the head of our library service about, how long has it been?
September.
A year? Okay. So not even a year ago. So what is that role? What's the job?
So I'm the director of libraries. Basically, I develop the budget. The head librarians at each of the branches report to me, and I'm kind of the one in charge of making sure that customer service is superb. That we're offering the resources and the programs that the community wants. So one of the things that I've been doing together with a volunteer by the name of Charlie Davis is some focus groups.
Okay.
So some of you who are library users might have seen that we were advertising for focus group participants recently. We had, I think it was about 6 or 7 groups where I was really trying to learn as a new person how the community uses the library, what things they want that we're not offering, and to get some, constructive criticism about things that we should improve.
Sure. Gotcha. So I don't know if they're all adults in the focus groups, because I have a teenage daughter who loves the library. Her ideal vacation would be just drop me off at the library in the morning. If you need somebody, I have a volunteer, and she may or may not be my favorite of the 3 children. So if you need somebody, she's happy to do that.
Keep that in mind.
In addition to kind of the focus groups, is there any big projects that you've kind of jumped into so far at your time here?
Not quite yet, because I'm still learning. I think a direction that we probably need to go based on what we were learning from the focus groups is that we need to do a better job of communications with the community about all the good things that we already offer. And so that's one of the reasons that I was more than happy to come on to your show. That it gives me an opportunity to just get more word out about the good things that we're doing. Yeah,
and you're on the right show of all the the wonderful Lower Merion TV shows. This clearly is the highest rated, the most award-winning, the one we get the most feedback on. So you're on the right show, and I certainly once again, I said it in the beginning, but I highly recommend staying away from Public Works Pipeline.
No, the library has its own show too.
I know it does.
So,
And
okay.
yeah, it's a
Lenore
wonderful show.
does a great job with
absolutely.
that. So I was on that show within the first couple of days that I started.
I'm sorry I'm sorry it took me a few months. I apologize. So actually, one thing you had said earlier that sparked a question I had was about the rare book collection at the Free Library of Philadelphia. I've collected baseball cards. I love like old books, and I've really become a bit of a history geek sometimes. Did you ever sit there and just like look at some of these books and be like, oh my God, this was around when the founding fathers were here? Or any were there any what were the special things in the collection, and how, if at all, did you interact with that?
Well, I didn't work in the rare books department. I actually spent some time in the government publications department, which is the library. The Free Library was a federal depository library back from the beginning of the program. But we had a lot of city documents from the 1800s that I enjoyed working with, and we worked on conservation to try to stabilize them and keep them in acid-free housing and reduce the temperature and humidity variations, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I bet it's got to be. I can imagine it being its own whole world of those rare books and how important they are to our history.
But interestingly, Gladwin Library has a Pennsylvania room where we have a number of items that are of interest to local history in Lower Merion. So I want to give a plug to that collection, and if anyone's interested in learning more, they could give a call or a visit over to Gladwin Library.
Okay, that is an excellent segue. The goons behind the camera are telling me it's time to take a break. I was a little afraid we'd have to whisper through this whole interview, so I'm happy that no one's shushed us. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. It's been great getting to know you a little bit more, and after the break, we'll learn a little bit more about the resources and initiatives happening in our libraries. See you soon. Welcome back, everyone. Now that you've gotten your snacks, it's time for part 2 of our interview with our amazing Director of Libraries, Lynn Williamson. So Lynn, one thing I've always wondered, how do you choose and get books for the libraries? I mean, it boggles my mind. I walk in and everything I can think of, every book I could ever think of is there or is accessible. How does that happen?
Well, we have a number of different vendors that we use, but basically the head librarians make the selections on a monthly basis. So there are services that we use that highlight to us in advance what the bestsellers are that are coming out, and we still use library journals to review, to read book reviews, to see what's good quality that's coming out, and then we rely a lot on our suggestions from our patrons as well. So I would encourage patrons, if you see an empty spot in the collection, feel free to talk to your local library staff. Sometimes, what you're looking for might be housed in a different place in the library, or maybe it really is a bald spot in the collection and we need to purchase more. So we really need you to give us that information and feedback. The other thing I want to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about is that how the library system is funded is that the township actually funds the staff and the buildings and the building maintenance. We get a public library subsidy from the state, and then the bulk of the collections purchases actually come from fundraising that the individual local library boards do. So each of the local libraries has an individual board, and they do fundraising, and that largely goes to our collections, and in some degree, sometimes to some programming as well. So it's just really important that if you appreciate and value the library's collections, remember on an annual basis to give your donation to the library, because it helps a lot.
Yeah, and I certainly, give some donations through fines because my irresponsible daughters never return their books on time. But that's obviously a tiny piece of things.
Right. Fines do go back into materials.
Okay, so that's great, and I feel better about paying the fine because of that, even though they're still irresponsible. So I know your predecessor in this role really brought on some innovative fundraising as well. I know there was, getting a lease of a car, a contest to get a lease from a car. Is it? I don't know if it was Ardmore Toyota.
It was.
Okay, good. I didn't want to. But are there other fundraising ideas that you've had that you are thinking, continuing to build upon that foundation?
Yeah, there's some early ideas. I'm not ready to share them yet because we're always looking for new ideas, and that's another thing I would encourage patrons to suggest. But I have a few ideas, and I need to talk them over actually with the Lower Merion Library Foundation. We have a foundation board as well. We had been looking into another car raffle for this year, and it looks like we need to take another route for this year. So we're still, that's still in development.
Yeah, and I know our libraries, and my closest library is Ludington Library, and the kids section there is incredible.
Oh, it is.
And I know, fundraising. I typically think about fundraising, whether it's events or targeted towards adults. Kids and teenagers and things like that are certainly, I know as a parent of 3 teenagers, always looking for great events for them and tying that into fundraising. I think, if there are opportunities or something.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah, I don't know if I just volunteered myself, but
we'll get back to you on that.
But I certainly think that would be a great avenue because I know parents are always looking to do things like that.
Yeah.
And so as we talked about the collection of the library, I know libraries now are very different from libraries 50 and 60 years ago. It's not just a collection of books.
That's right.
Tell me some of the other kind of resources we have at our libraries.
So that's going back to the challenge of communicating to everyone all the great things we have. There's so many that I actually had to study up to be ready to answer that question. So a lot of our users a lot of our patrons are using e-materials right now. I hear a lot of feedback of people using the e-audiobooks and also e-books. So we have 3 services that provide that. We have Canopy is for videos, for streaming videos, so free. High quality kind of art house movie videos for free. So you don't have to pay your subscription for a streaming service if you can find it on Canopy. We also have free Hoopla, which is you can borrow e-audio and e-books instantly. You don't have to wait on either Canopy or Hoopla. You don't have to wait. You just see what you want and you borrow it for free. And then we have Libby, which is we have larger number of titles in Libby, and that's e-audiobooks, e-books, and also e-magazines. So for that, you can check out, it's a single user, single copy, so sometimes you might have to wait if it's a bestseller, but that's another way to check out e-materials. Now, in addition to that, and probably some of the things that we don't get as much attention over is we do have consumer reports available for free with your library card from home. We have Ancestry. A lot of people are really interested in doing genealogical research. You can do genealogical research via Ancestry. The trick there is you have to be inside the library to use that resource. We also have a language learning software which is free called Mango. And then one of my favorite resources that really most people don't know about is called Learning Express Library.
Okay.
And it has, for job seekers, it has lots of different resources to help prepare for interviews and to look into different career options. But even more important, it has practice tests for SAT, ACT, GED, a number of different resources like that. So there there are those things, and then there are some of the more unique things that we loan, the tangible physical things that we loan, like the cake pans.
Yes.
And we also loan hotspots, so you can check out hotspots actually for 3 weeks. And we also we loan museum passes. This is one of our most popular kind of unusual things that people can borrow.
Oh, we've taken advantage of that a number of times. It's such a wonderful program, and that's the other thing that I've noticed is I've gone to meetings at the at Ludington Library. Is there a way to use conference rooms and things like that? And how does that work?
Absolutely. All of the libraries have a public meeting room. There's a meeting room application on our website under policies, and really we just ask that people ask in advance, and that it's for a nonprofit use, and that the meeting would be open to the public.
Gotcha.
So for more information, just ask your local library.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, a lot of these, I didn't know about a lot of these resources. They're amazing. If somebody's intimidated, I want to go use Ancestry, I don't know how to do it, just ask your librarian.
Our staff are trained to be open, welcoming, and patient, so please feel free to use the resources of library staff. We'll be more than happy to show you how to use any of those resources, including how to download Libby on your device, or if you're having problems with login, just call us or stop by.
That's great. Yeah, no, and my experience has been we have such a wonderful staff, and they're always willing to help, and it's really great to have that. So a lot of, as you said, you're relatively new here. You're catching up. You're understanding what our system looks like. What are some of as you look to the future? Hopefully, you're here for 20 years, if not longer than that. What are some of those initiatives that you're like, this is what I'm really excited to do and build upon within our libraries? Is there anything that you have in mind that you'd love to see 5 years from now if you look back and said, this is how I've grown the libraries here?
I'm still working on what those longer term things might be, but I did want to mention a new service that we just got that was actually funded by the Lower Merion Library Foundation. And that is a new online author lecture tool. So we have every month, we and other libraries across the country who subscribe to this service can offer 2 to 3 kind of higher profile authors that can be viewed in promoting their books from home. This is not an in-person program.
Okay.
But right now we have, I think the next author lecture is William Kent Kruger, who's a New York Times bestselling author. And there are many more authors that are queued up that patrons can register and then view from home. Actually, if you register in advance, you have the opportunity to submit questions for the authors to answer as well. And the recorded book talks are offered on the website after. So just visit our website in order to learn more about that. I'm pretty excited about it.
That's really neat.
That's something that a lot of feedback during the focus groups was more programs for adults and more author programs.
Yeah. So with that, do the authors, I know it's a virtual program, but are they literally coming here, or they're broadcasting from wherever
they're broadcasting from wherever they are.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
For One Book, One Lower Merion, we usually try to get the author to come here and offer a talk. And we don't have a planned author quite yet for this year because that program happens in the fall. So.
Gotcha. Another thing I've noticed is Story Walk. I know we have one at Ashbridge Park. It was a huge success when it was rolled out, and I think it's such a fun connection between our Parks Department and our Library Department. Are we going to expand? Is that only in Ashbridge, or do we have it elsewhere?
Right now it's only in Ashbridge. Okay. We'd certainly be open to doing more of those. We actually, I don't know if it's complete yet, but we're just in the process of updating the story at the Ashbridge Park. So if you haven't been there in a while, it might be time to go back and see the new story.
Yeah.
We'd love to do more of that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many wonderful programs. I think, David, before you like I said, set up a great foundation. And
Oh, he really did.
Really
Yeah.
excited to see, how you continue to enhance it. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I've learned so much, so thank you so much, Lynn. It's been great to have you here. And for everyone at home, I look forward to seeing you guys next month for another episode of Beside the Gavel. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, there you go.
So I would.
Did I do?